Hey then, welcome to GamePoints, our weekly little get-together. We talk about the past week in gaming news. I am your host, as always, Stephen Brown. Joining me today is...
I'm David.
This is, of course, GamePoints episode 93. Thank you for joining us here live every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/GamePoints. If you happen to be watching us live, feel free to jump into the show with whatever topics we're going to be covering or any comments or questions you might have. If you're watching us over at YouTube, feel free to like, subscribe, follow, or even dislike down below. Comment to your heart's content as well. We tend to respond to those whenever we can. Tonight, we're going to get into the Open 4 modding controversy, the surrounding Grand Theft Auto 5. We're going to talk about some Samus Returns. We have some Sony not playing with others on Minecraft and Rocket League we need to discuss. But first, before we get into all of that, David.
Yes.
Do you know what PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is?
I think at this point everybody knows what PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is.
Yeah, I am totally behind on the boat on this. I'm not going to lie. I finally sat down and watched some of that over the last weekend, and I know I'm way behind on the boat on this. This game came out, what, a month and a half ago or so?
Yeah. Dude, it's going to come out on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Don't you remember? We were talking about how it was going to be all exclusive.
It is, and I kept blowing it off, though, because it's in early access. Though, I tend to just stay away from most early access games because
was DayZ.
Yeah, that's where I made the mistake. I forgot just how popular some of this early access stuff is, and admittedly, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is very buggy still. I've seen a lot of issues with it. I haven't played it yet myself, but I was watching a bunch of people stream it. That game looks like a fucking blast.
Dude, it's all for one for all nonsense, because you can either play by yourself or I think with 4 people.
Yeah, you have 1v1, or not 1v99, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Then teams
100,
of 2,
100 people
then
trying
teams
to
of 4.
100 people trying to kill each other. You can have a team of 2 or a team of 4.
I am so upset that I missed the intro boat on this, because I did not expect this game to be as entertaining as it is.
Luckily, the boat is still going.
Yeah, and I will probably be hopping on it very soon. Do you have to play that by any chance, David?
I do not. We know people that do, though.
Yeah, we need to get in on that.
And we'll see.
Anyways, this is, like I said earlier, GamePoints episode 93. Let's go ahead and get right into the news. First topic of the day is Modern Warfare Remastered. Remember back when Infinite Warfare came out and they had the Modern Warfare Remastered,
which was the main reason to buy that game?
Yeah, so it was like an extra $20 add-on, but that's the only way you can get it is by buying that game. That's apparently changed. This information is coming via Charlie Intel. Modern Warfare Remastered game case revealed, reportedly available on June 20th.
Now, see, that's amazing, because as much as I don't think I would pay all the money for Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare 4 again, just Modern Warfare 4 for cheap might be worth it.
Well, cheap is... Well, we'll get to that as we go on down here. So
relative.
Yeah, first of all, as you can see, this game clearly exists. This is the back of it, unless it's a very clever fake, and I don't think it is. New image report shows that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered could be update available January 20th or June 20th, which is tomorrow, as of recording of this. Inventory.
Or it's coming out next week.
You can see street date and in stock day on there. Or, like you mentioned earlier, other retailers were saying it's coming June 27th. It seems that people are somewhat confused on the release date for this because it's being stealth released. Until now, the only way to get this game was through buying Infinite Warfare. It looks like Activision figured that they can make some extra bank on this, and figuring that they are charging $39.99 for a game, 10 years old now?
It's seriously $40?
Yeah. Information from website.
Activision.
Here's a picture of a price tag from Target. PS4 game COD Modern Warfare Remastered, $39.99.
Fuck that. Why the fuck would I pay $40 to play Call of Duty 4 again? Get out of here. I thought it was going to be $20 or $10.
Yeah, you would figure 20, right? Because for $60 is Infinite Warfare, and for this game, you would get the extra for extra 20. By all that, you get this game. I think they're justifying it by saying it comes with all the DLC they released. Keep in mind, this is DLC of a game that was released once before 10 years ago.
You can buy Infinite Warfare for $60. So what they're actually saying here is that Infinite Warfare is the game that's worth $20. That's how that fucking shit checks out there, Activision.
Yeah, it's fucking obscene that they're charging $40 for this game.
Fuck this game. I would buy it if it wasn't fucking $40.
20 bucks.
Stupid.
20 bucks is fucking reasonable for this.
Yeah,
Completely
20 bucks I do
understandable.
it.
But not only is it 40 bucks, but when they released Modern Warfare 4 Remastered on Infinite Warfare, I'm getting the names confused because they're fucking so similar sounding. They had the gall to then charge 20 bucks for DLC map packs that were originally released at 15 bucks when the game first came out. Think about that.
Fuck you guys.
That is fucking obscene, Activision.
Fuck Call of Duty.
God, that is so ridiculous. Anyways, if you did lament the fact that you can pick up Modern Warfare Remastered without picking up Infinite Warfare, well, you get your chance either tomorrow or next week. Reports seem to be conflicting on which one it's going to release. My gut says tomorrow, but we'll find out, I guess, on the 20th.
That's fair.
Next topic. This is going to be via PC Gamer, but you can find this all over the place if you wanted to. Rockstar has shut down GTA's Open4 modding tool. Or rather,
that's kind of a big deal. Well,
let me be clear.
They didn't shut them down. They sent
down.
a cease and desist letter.
Yeah, well, that's shutting them down. And Take-Two is the one that actually sent the letter.
Yes, not Rockstar.
Just to be 100% clear here.
As we all remember, Rockstar is the cool company that makes games that people like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. Take-Two is the asshole company in charge of Rockstar that just fucks with people all the time.
Open4 is no longer being distributed to a cease and desist letter from Take-Two. PC Gamer reported that lead developer of Open4, a modding tool that has allowed GTA games to be modded for nearly a decade, has decided to shut down their mod after receiving a cease and desist from Take-Two Interactive, publisher of the Grand Theft Auto series. This is really fucked up, one, because this has been going on for 10 years, and it's not like they didn't know this existed because of how big Open4 is.
This is the modding tool for the Grand Theft Auto games. Like, if you've seen YouTube videos and shit of cool mods in Grand Theft Auto, more than likely it was made with Open4.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see if I can go bring up Open4's website here on top of all of this, but they're doing this kind of off the fly. Here we go.
Yeah, we can talk about this.
The official website. I thought this was the actual thing, so I'm just going to take that off. But essentially, they go into detail about how they received this very poorly worded C&D from Take-Two, where it's got grammatical errors all over it, so they clearly didn't proofread the letter before they fired it off. But essentially, they got C&D because Take-Two's saying, hey, your modding lets people exploit bugs in multiplayer or some shit, and it's like, this has been around for 10 fucking years, guys. You can't tell me that you didn't realize this in 10 years. Anyways, the response from Open4 is the following. This comes from Good NTS. Quote, it was a hard decision, but when any modding activity has been declared illegal, we can't see any possibilities to continue this process, unless top management of Take-Two company makes an official statement about modding, which can be used in court. Rockstar responded, which is what you're seeing here as I get my web pages in order. Take-Two's actions were not specifically targeting single-player mods. Unfortunately, Open4 enables recent malicious mods that allow harassments of players to interfere with GTA Online experience for everybody. We're working to figure out how we can continue supporting the creative community without negatively impacting our players. To which I must respond with, why are you not banning those mods and instead you're throwing out the entire system?
To be fair, they've had a hacking problem in that game pretty much since the day it launched on PC.
Then why are they? Why are they responding this way now, after 10 years? Or has it? Because
they're gonna release another game soon, and they want to make sure that this doesn't ruin that one. I don't know.
That doesn't ruin this one. That has nothing to do with the next game coming out.
Is somebody decided to forward a cool email to the wrong person, who then took it to their boss at Take-Two, who said, "What do you mean there's mods for our game? Are we making money on that?" Send him a cease and desist.
Yeah, that's more than likely what happened.
And then the poor intern that opened the email went, "Oh, well, how do I write one of those?" And he's like, "I don't fucking know. Just tell them they can't do it because it's illegal." And then he shit out an email and sent it to him, and that's what happens.
It's just fucking ridiculous because a great deal of Grand Theft Auto's success on the PC, and one of the reasons why I personally think it still sells like Game Busters today on the PC, is because of that modding system.
Oh yeah, you can get some awesome stuff in the single player campaign.
Like Rockstar or Take-Two owes a lot of its money to the fact that these people put in time and effort for free because they love this game so much to create shit, and they don't get a dime from any of this. Instead, they get fucking legal threats from Take-Two.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
That's rough.
Anyways, it's bullshit. The story's still kind of developing. We're still getting some words on it, but for the most part, it sounds like Open 4 is just done.
It's just one of those things. It's another fucking lawyered up big game publisher story where somebody's just getting hammered.
Yeah.
I feel like we have this exact story almost every other week.
Yeah, it feels that way, doesn't it? I think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those cases where this is along the lines of when you were having like EA and Activision and everyone but Nintendo, because Nintendo still does this, coming down on YouTube where they're like, oh no, that's a trailer, you can't fucking show that, or no, you can't do Let's Plays, and they were just heavy-handedly shutting this stuff down, not realizing that this is just going to make people do it more.
Yep. Well, now we gotta wait for Open 5 to come out so that we can get more mods back in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, it's kind of a scumbaggy move, especially after the fact that this has been going on for 10 years.
Yeah, it's weird timing. That's for sure.
You can make the case of just because they've been doing something for 10 years doesn't mean it's right if it was wrong to begin with. But once again...
And there's a lot of people that complain about all the hacking that happens in multiplayer, so maybe this is them finally taking a stand. Because it's true. A lot of people get really fucking mad at Rockstar for not fixing how bad the hacking is in that game.
This is less fixing the hacking as much as it is going, well, we don't want to do the work, so let's get rid of this right here. And that's not going to stop the hacking at all. It's not going to do anything.
It just moves it.
Yeah. Rather than... I'm it's unfair to say, hey, Rockstar, fix your fucking shit. This is your problem. I get that because hackers are going to hack. The sad fact of the matter is your games are going to have fucking hacking in it. You need to have people live actively countering it. You can't just put it on auto and let it sort itself out because people who are hacking the games figure out that shit. You need to have live support 24/7 and a lot of it for a game the size of Grand Theft Auto to catch these motherfuckers doing it at the same time. This is just a half measure that does nothing to really prevent what they're trying to prevent and instead just punishes people who aren't doing anything with it. It's fucked up.
Yes, it is. Man, this is fucking depressing.
It is.
How am I going to get over this depression, Steven?
Well, the good news
What's going to make me happy from this?
The good news is our next topic might actually put a smile on your face, and that is the fact that Nintendo, out of fucking nowhere, announced not just one, but 2 Metroids.
Yeah, dude, that happened last week.
The first one, Metroid Prime 4, being developed. We don't really know of a team working on it, but we do know that it is not retro. It's a new team working on it. No other information besides that. The next...
Well, it's a Switch game.
Yeah,
you
it's
know
a Switch
that.
game. The next one I found even more surprising is another, honest-to-God, 2D Metroid for the 3DS.
Hell yes.
Yes. You can see it playing right here. It is a remake of Metroid 2, which was Samus Returns, I believe, on the original Game Boy.
Yes.
Good one to remake, because I'd say that's the one people have probably played the least.
I mean, take in mind, this is an original Game Boy game. So, like, green and black LCD. Like,
yeah,
old school.
Absolutely. This also explains why they came so hard with their own cease and desist on another Metroid Remake 2 team, or another Metroid 2 Remake team, because they were in the process of doing this.
Yeah, they were actively making that game.
More light on there.
And yeah, it's a weird thing that it popped up all of a sudden, but obviously they've been working on it for a while. I'm pretty stoked for this. Well, it's exciting that this last week the Metroid fans that have been holding out for 8 years.
It's been a long-ass time since there's been a proper Metroid game. And we're not counting Federation Force, and I barely count Other M.
So, the 3D Metroid fans got fucking hyped when that 4 teaser dropped. And then, not even an hour later, the side-scrolling Metroid fans got excited. Because this is kind of insane. They're going to make a bunch of money.
It wasn't even showed on Nintendo's Direct Conference either. This was like an after-show interview that they revealed this.
Yeah.
So, surprising for that. We do have some information on this one, unlike Metroid Prime 4. One, being done by Mercury Steam. Now, I know there are some people who are very scared of that because Mercury Steam are the guys who brought you the Lords of Shadow games as well as the handheld Lords of Shadow 2D game, and that kind of sucked. I still say Lords of Shadow 1 was a great game, but I admit I'm in the minority on that.
There's a chance.
Yeah, this still looks good, though. There is a good chance that Mercury Steam were being hogtied by Konami, because remember, they were under their mandate. They are not this time around. Also...
Plus, they have like all the source material already done for them. All they have to do is recreate assets and then transpose the gameplay.
Well, we don't know if they're going to like redo the map or anything. I'd imagine maps are getting redone. You might see some new items. I don't know that for certain, but I would imagine that would be the case.
I think it looks good.
Yeah, it does look good. We also know a release date, September 15th. So pretty goddamn
close. This year.
Of this year.
That's the big thing we can talk about, since we were a little bit early last week when we did our E3 coverage, that Nintendo kind of came out swinging, and most of the things they announced are actually coming out this year.
Yeah, Nintendo.
Unlike the other conferences that were coming out nebulous release dates to follow.
Yeah, Nintendo's conference in loose terms was probably the best one of a overall mediocre E3.
Sounds like you didn't watch Devolver Digital's.
I don't count Devolver. Listen, I love their Adult Swim. We're going to fucking take the piss out of E3's pretentiousness with our 15-minute, what was it, Tomorrow's Unethical Business Practices Today conference.
So good. So good.
But that's not a real conference. I'm not counting that. Although it was hilarious to watch that. And I think there's actual legitimate beef between Devolver Digital and the ESA. The ESA is the Entertainment Software Association. These are the guys that run E3 every year. So to see them just fucking savagely attack the absurdity that is E3 it put a smile on my face. In fact, at the beginning when I think her name was Nina something, comes out and she starts talking about, on this very, very stage, very game will be very shown. And she keeps saying very over and over and over again. The second I saw that, I was like, I see where they're going. And they're absolutely right. This is exactly how presenters at these conferences talk.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Anyway, we were talking about Nintendo. Nintendo showing up, and after, years of just not listening to Nintendo fans and how mad we've been at them recently, how the fuck did they do that bait and switch on us? How did they make us so mad so that 6 months ago, if you'd asked either of us about Nintendo, we wouldn't have given two shits, to now we're like, oh, yeah, Nintendo's got some stuff going on. I'm pretty excited. That Switch looks pretty rad.
Two things about that. One, they've actually been teasing this Metroid 2 game for a long time. Because if you go back through like previous interviews and directs, there's one in mind that I'm thinking of specifically where they're being interviewed by someone, and I forget who it was, but it's, I want to say Reggie and someone else. I can't remember who. But they're doing like a 3-card Monty game, right, where they put suggestions of what fans wanted to see under these cups, and they switch the cups around. And they pull one of the cups up, and one of the cups says a 2D Metroid remake. So they've been teasing, and there's a bunch of other videos that show they've been teasing and hinting at this for like 6 months at least. But honestly, you want to know why I think Nintendo's coming out so hard on the Switch and why the Switch has so much promise now? And remember, both David and I were really down on the Switch before it first came out. We refused to believe it, that this was going to be a good console.
We wanted it to. We just didn't. We couldn't believe it.
It's definitely shaping out to be a good one. But I think what happened was they saw that the Wii U was fucking tanking. And they just went, you know what? To hell with this. We'll take instead of trying to try to pump out a few more months, maybe a year out of the Wii U, they took all that development time and resources and all the games that they had planned for Wii U and just went, they're all Switch games now. Mm-hmm. And so
they really switched it up.
Ha ha ha. So while the Wii U was floundering, they figured, let's just eat the cost of this. We'll chalk it up as Virtual Boy 2, and we'll really wow them with the next console. And so far,
and the fun thing is, anything good that was on Wii U that everybody missed, they can still release on the Switch because nobody played it.
Extra bonus.
They just got that whole option. It's great.
I would like to know how much the Wii U ended up costing Nintendo, though. I wonder if there's like an article
to build
that. No, just overall, like how big of a disaster that console was for them.
I gotcha.
Like, billions, 10 billion, 50 billion. I'm curious to know how much they had to just write off on that entire project.
I'm curious to know how many of those are sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah,
Are we gonna dig those up in a ET-sized dumpster hole in 30 years?
You know, at times too, I'll even say, so for example, if you don't have any consoles and you have like $100, go buy a PlayStation 3. Sure, right? That's a massive library of games.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even say that with the Wii U, because everything that the Wii U does, either the Wii or the Switch does better.
Yeah.
And if you really want like an exclusive Wii U game, it'll come over to the Switch if it was good, I assure you.
Yeah, there's just no reason to get one ever. I mean, hell, you can still pick up a PS2 if you wanted.
Yeah, I really do want to see how much of a loss they took on that. Anyways, next story, David.
No, let's just talk about Sony, because that's the thing that I tend to talk about some of these times.
Sony...
Well, actually, let's keep talking about Nintendo.
Okay. Before I go on
talk
to the next
about
one,
some more of this Nintendo spotlight and all the crazy shit that they had that's coming up. And one of the cool things is that Nintendo is actually finally getting a game that we were thinking they wouldn't, and that is Rocket League. It's announced for the Switch. Sense,
though. I'm actually really upset I didn't put that on my predictions. Because that
game
makes
at the time, if
you
remember, we thought it would be a great fit for the Switch, but there was a little bit of time where we had no idea on what the online plan was for the Switch, and the Rocket League guys at Psyonix, yeah, I was thinking of how to say that, didn't want to commit to bringing a game to the Switch if they didn't know how the online play was going to be until they saw a good online engine. They didn't want to do it. They have an online game. That is how that game is played. But you can play it locally, and the Switch is going to do great at that.
Yes,
and also announced that the Rocket League is going to be cross-platform, which is awesome, because as it is right now, PC and PS4 players can play together, right? That's how it is right now. Now, in the future, PC and Switch and Xbox players, they can all play together. Everybody all together. All of us.
In an article via Eurogamer, Sony defends decision to block PlayStation 4 cross-play with Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. This is referring to both Minecraft, which Microsoft is going to allow to be playable between Xbox One, everything but PlayStation, and, as we were mentioning earlier, Rocket League, in which case you can't play Rocket League with people on a Switch or an Xbox One.
Yup. There goes the dream that everyone's had of cross-platform play with their friends. Sony is so against it.
And the reasoning they give for it is laughable at best.
When pressed for details, they made up the bullshittiest excuses that anyone has ever bullshitted out. And the actual answer is, we're ahead, we do what we want, go fuck yourself and buy a PlayStation.
Absolutely.
I'm just getting that out of the way now. The fun part of this story to me is that it actually is directly because of an interview with Jim Ryan, who we actually talked about fairly recently. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, he's the same asshole that was saying some other stuff that wasn't popular.
Yeah, like Jim Ryan seems to keep putting his foot in his mouth.
He's the guy that said old games are trash. Fuck history.
Yeah.
If you remember, that's a direct quote.
So this is from the interview with Eurogamer right here, and the big quote that kind of set everyone off here is to follow, including Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, by the way, I might add. He kind of took umbrage with this too, and the quote is as follows. When asked about why Sony won't allow people to play with Xbox and Switch players, Jim Ryan said the following. Exposing what in many cases are children to external influences that we have no ability to manage or look after is something we have to think about very carefully, end quote. What he is essentially saying here is that
Sony...
He's
saying that he's scared. Sony is upset that people that aren't on a Sony platform might manage to talk to their kids, and they won't be able to help parents keep their kids away from these spooky internet people.
Not only is he saying that Nintendo, who fucking has friends codes and archaic-ass internet infrastructure designed to keep children safe, but also Microsoft are too incompetent to put in their own protections from kids in place.
It's just so funny.
This is Sony saying this. The company whose network went down for a couple of months because hackers infiltrated it. The company,
remember that time that Sony told everybody to change your passcodes because there was a good chance that all of your credit card information was stolen? Do you remember that?
The company who
that
about
happened.
once every 9 months loses everyone's fucking credit card information out into the internet somewhere is saying they don't trust Microsoft and Nintendo with internet security.
God damn.
Think about that.
The best quote, though, has to be the one where, when asked if how this discussion is going to go down, right? And he said, "Unfortunately, it's a commercial discussion between ourselves and other stakeholders, and I'm not going to get into the detail of that on this particular instance." Like, that was his... We're not going to talk about it because we have to talk about it to our stakeholders, but the answer's totally money.
That's why, exactly. And he fucking had the gall to say that before blaming the children. Won't someone think of the children card that he played? He straight up came out and said, this is a thing we need to discuss with our investors.
Yep.
And then, when he realized I probably shouldn't say it's because of the money, he he pulls out the kid card.
Oh my god, it's so funny. Fucking Jim Ryan, dude. Like, I tried to defend him. I did a little bit a couple weeks ago. Remember when he was talking about all that backwards compatibility stuff and everyone got mad at him? And I kind of went for him. You know, I'm like, maybe Jim just said the wrong thing. Maybe he's got a little bit of a bad day. No, fucking Jim's an asshole. I'm with everybody else now.
Jim Ryan, Mr. Ryan, Jim, whatever you prefer to be called.
JR.
Just be fucking honest about it. Listen, yeah, you're gonna piss gamers off when you say everyone else can play together, but Sony's on its own platform. Or say something like, we feel that our user base is big enough. But when you try to do this bullshit PR business speak spin on what is clearly something you just don't want to do for the money or because of business reasons, aka you don't want to be giving help to Xbox or Switch, or God forbid they might have to create an account with your competitor to play games with their friends who might own the other systems. Just fucking say that. We might not like it, but at least we won't think you're trying to dick us around. When you make up this bullshit excuse like, won't somebody think of the children, when you yourself, not you personally, but Sony as a whole, can't keep their fucking internet security tight enough to keep their shit from going down or their credit cards from getting leaked, you're fucking laughable, man. You said Nintendo, the master of the friend code, the most family-friendly and as such, most asininely difficult to log on to anything they do on the online company, isn't trustworthy by your standards to protect children.
It's just so good. It's fantastic, really.
And this wouldn't be as big of a story as it's become if you didn't use that bullshit excuse.
He could have just said, at this time, the Sony brand prefers to have its players play with each other.
I would much rather Jim Ryan have come out and said the lion doesn't concern itself with the opinions of the sheep. Because that is ultimately what this is, right? That's just like the super blunt way of saying it.
At this point, we're so far ahead, we don't think that joining forces with the people that are desperately trying to crawl their way back into our territory is going to help us out at all. So we're not going to.
So, yeah. Two foot and mouth instances in just as many weeks is not a good look. And you know what's really terrifying about this? You're starting to see that PlayStation 3 era hubris of Sony slowly creeping back in.
Oh no, arrogant Sony!
You're starting to see that, well, we're Sony. We're better than everyone else. And you should just accept that. Viewpoint popping up here and there in small flares, and that shit needs to get stomped out right fucking now.
Are they Meridian Dynamics?
You know what happens when we get that? We get $5.99 to play Ridge Racer. You'll get a second job to buy our fucking console. That's the bad Sony. That's the Sony that's always like waiting to come out. And the other people at Sony have to kind of push that down and hope it doesn't raise its ugly head again. Because when it happens, it's fucking bad. David, anything else you want to add to this before we move on to the next story?
It's just so absurd. We'll have to wait to see if at any point this comes back to bite them. Right now, they might get away with it just because of how ahead they are, but only time will tell.
All right. I think we've done ranted about that
Jim.
enough. You know what the pitch of it is? Jim Ryan actually seems to be like a nice guy. He's just said some really bad things over the past few weeks, but I'm not going to say he's a bad person.
I don't think he's a bad person. I just think he's an idiot.
He has. I have to wonder if there's someone at Sony who is going up to him going, "You need to stay on script from now on."
Right? They're like, dude, cue cards. Fuck.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of those cases where you know someone on Sony's PR just kind of like listening to this on the podcast or reading this interview, and they're like eating cereal, and also get this part and they go, and they like choke on whatever they had in their mouth at the same time, because suddenly whatever they had planned for this week has been immediately thrown out the window.
No, time to yell at Jim again.
Oh, Jim, what are we going to do with you? Anyways, enough of that. Next story, David.
Oh, dude, let's talk about TenCent. Remember TenCent, that giant, huge gaming company that's based out of China that recently made their version of Steam international, and they're going to try and throw down with that. And they seem to be a pretty big company that's got a whole lot of money, and they own the guys that make League of Legends.
Yeah, EA and Activision and all the publishers that you can think of got nothing on the scale and scope of TenCent. And they might potentially be getting bigger. The source is theinformation.com, but since they put their stuff behind a paywall, I had to go to fortune.com, which is what you see right here. Angry Birds maker Rovio weighed an IPO. Why is that important? Well, let me continue reading. Finnish mobile game and animation studio Rovio, maker of the Angry Birds game, is said it could list on a stock exchange in the future, while declining to comment on a media report that China's TenCent Holdings was looking to acquire the company. TenCent is looking to buy Angry Birds. Now, I have one big question here out the gate, and that is, do people even care about Angry Birds still, or is that ship sailed?
No, Angry Birds still makes money.
Does it? Okay.
There's like 4 of them now, I think.
Okay,
I
know there was a movie too, but I don't do mobile gaming myself. So if it comes to the cell phone stuff or Apple or Android stores, I'm almost always in the dark about it. Going on from this article, technology news site The Information, citing unnamed sources, reported that TenCent was exploring a possible $3 billion bid for Rovio, and also said that Rovio may consider an IPO. It's essentially confirming what I mentioned earlier. Is Angry Birds franchise, or the entire company, I guess, of Rovio, worth $3 billion? I know neither one of us are financial experts.
It's possible.
Anyways,
I mean,
the main reason why I want to bring this up, David, is because it's TenCent. I need to hammer home to anyone listening how big and powerful TenCent is. They own Riot Games League of Legends, which is arguably I wouldn't even say arguably, I would say subjectively the most popular game on earth right now.
For a very long time, that was true. It may have shifted, but to my knowledge, it still is.
They are a massive Chinese pan-Asian conglomerate, and they take over all these small mobile companies. There's a good chance that if you play anything on the phone that isn't Angry Birds, well, possibly not for a little bit longer, or any of the PopGap stuff or Clash of Clans or anything like that, it's owned by TenCent. In fact, Clash of Clans might be owned by TenCent. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, they're making a sequel to the Angry Birds movie.
It could be TenCent doing it.
There's also like 4 Angry Birds games that came out this year.
Either way, this company is fucking massive, and if you're not paying attention to what they're doing, you need to be. because they put the publishers like EA and Activision and Ubisoft to shame with how much market share they actually have. Stop looking toward the North American, European-centric style that we normally cover when we talk about games. Start looking toward Asia, because that is where the future of everything's going. You're actually already starting to see it with movies. There's a reason why Transformers had a big set piece in China. There's a reason why I think it was the newest Star Trek movie was in part financed by Alibaba.
Turns out when a large percentage of the world population lives in a place, people that like money are going to try and cater towards that place. Yeah. And the companies that grow out of there are going to be fucking huge. To follow up on the value we were talking about for Rovio.
I was hoping you were looking that up. That's why I kept going.
In 2012, so think 5 years ago, they rejected a buyout from Zynga for $2.25 billion.
Okay.
So 5 years ago, they said no to $2.25 billion.
Now, I guess the question is,
how much have they grown in 5 years?
Yeah, have they gotten smaller or bigger?
I'm thinking a little bigger.
All right. Thank you for looking that up, by the way, David. I appreciate it.
Dude, they made $190 million, I think, recently, last year. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's a nice chunk of change. Anyways, next topic. Why we're at a low point of the show and of our lives.
Man, but you, dude, I'm doing great. Dude, let's talk about more nonsense, but this nonsense can be Destiny related. You know that game that people like?
That's a great transition, David.
It is. I'm really a pro at these.
Next topic. This is going to come via Forbes with quotes from Kotaku and PC Gamer. If you ever wondered why the plot to Destiny really didn't make no sense and why it seems like it didn't go anywhere, it's because it really didn't exist.
It's because Bungie didn't know either.
From writer Paul Tassi from Forbes, Bungie has written out the darkness of the Exo Stranger out of Destiny 2. Do you know why they removed them, David?
Yes, I actually do, because there was a recent interview that Jason Schreier from Kotaku had with Luke Smith, who's a designer on Destiny, and he more or less just full-on admitted that they didn't even know what the fuck the darkness was when they were making Destiny. They had no goddamn clue. They were just the bad guy.
Yeah.
It was just like, just everything bad is just the darkness. We'll just keep throwing it's darkness. It's all darkness. Spooky shit's darkness.
This quote comes from Luke Smith, one of the designers on Destiny. He said this on one of Kotaku's podcasts. It is as follows. At a point, just totally candidly, we had no idea what the darkness was. Straight up, we had no clue. We didn't know what it was. For a period, we were going to lump all the races, and you can see this in the tooltips in the game, quote, Minions of the Darkness. And we had taken all the races and said, they just all be the darkness. But that's not what the IP deserves. It's literally not. And so, we're doing with Destiny is the quote's kind of jumbled because it's written as he said, not that should be grammatically correct. And so, what we're doing with Destiny is we are deliberately telling a story about the light and what it means to be chosen. And as such, we are in the process of removing the term the darkness from the game, because when we are going to talk about the darkness next, we need to know what it is and have a plan for it, and we do. In other words, the big bad of the Destiny franchise, they had no fucking plot behind it. And this matches up with the fact that you kept hearing all this, like if you ever go research the development of Destiny, like, the story was scrapped at the 80% point. Shit got jumbled around last minute. It was just kind of thrown out haphazard. Remember, they had to replace Peter Dinklage's Robo-Ghost voice.
What about Moon Wizards?
Moon Wizards had to get written out. The entire narrative, like the plot that was Destiny, was a fucking joke, and they know it. And they released it anyways because they were under pressure from Activision to get this shit out the door.
Yeah, I don't necessarily blame them on that.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to get the
game
out
you need to get this goddamn game out right now. And they're like, okay, well, it's going to play pretty well. But if you ever... it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah. If you ever wonder why the plot to Destiny seemed fucking incoherent, well, there it is right there. Another quote from Luke Smith, gotten from PC Gamer, also on this Forbes article here, says, "We have a bunch of characters who are interesting, but the Exo Stranger is the one that always made me chuckle a little bit. I feel that one's character we actually wrapped up the arc. She gave you a sweet gun and then dissolved. Presumably you have to do something else. So I feel like of all of our characters we introduced and exited, we actually exited her effectively. That's bullshit, Luke Smith. Because during the entire campaign, the entire main story of Vanilla Destiny, there's all these hints about how the speaker might be a bad guy and how it turns out that the light might be the evil in the universe of a darkness that's coming, not because they're bad guys, but because they know you're going to fuck up everything and they've been destroyed by each other. There's all these hints that the Traveler is actually evil, and it all revolves around the Exo Stranger. So yeah, she comes in and goes out, but she leaves all this unanswered side story there that never gets addressed and never will, because it turns out you guys wanted to put all these fucking carrots for people to chase out in your game with nowhere way it was going to go anywhere.
Man, you're getting your story preference all up in my loot shooter.
Then don't have a story. If you know your story is trash,
well, it sounds like they're actually attempting to really fix that for the second one. It does sound like they're going to give it the old college try, and it sounds like they have a little bit more time and a better plan, because this time there's a plan. And it doesn't sound like they have to scrap the whole fucking game again. So there's that.
Destiny 2 sounds more and more like a soft reboot with every article I read about it.
Cool. I'm fine with that. I don't mind.
I don't mind if they do it right. The last major franchise that had a soft reboot and attempt to bring in more people was Mass Effect Andromeda.
Ooh.
And what they did was piss off fans of the existing franchise and failed to actually bring in anyone new. And the result was Mass Effect as a whole is now put on ice until EA figures out what the fuck to do with it. That said, I do not see Destiny 2 being a Mass Effect Andromeda. If anything, Destiny 2 actually looks like the game Destiny 1 should have been. And Destiny 1, despite me bitching about its plot, was actually a lot of fucking fun mechanically.
And also, it's gotten better. Fuck.
Oh, it's gotten significantly better. They have put a lot of time and effort into making that game what it should have been out the gate.
And now they're going to make another one that hopefully is going to start great and then get better again.
Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out later this year.
Considering it's actually going to be on PC.
Yeah, are you picking that up, by the way, David? I'm getting it.
Well, it doesn't come out, I think, for an extra month after the console version.
Yeah, I can wait.
So I'm going to wait because I don't pre-order fucking games.
Yeah, same here. But I do plan on getting the PC version of it. In fact, I feel like that game should have been PC from the get-go, but when you're rushing to get your story out because your game had to get fucking redone multiple times over the course of its development, I guess PC isn't the focus anymore.
That's fair.
Next story.
No, dude. Well, let's do it.
So this is via gamesindustry.biz, as I kind of readjust here. Excuse me if that made a lot of obscene noise. E3 is over and investors are hammering Game and GameStop. For those of you in America who don't know what Game is, that is the UK version of GameStop. If you're watching us from across the pond, GameStop is the UK version of Game.
US. The US version of Game.
Oh.
Not the UK version of Game. Because that's just Game and you're an
idiot.
That is dumb.
This article is via GamesIndustry.biz by James Brightman. UK games retailer Game Digital has seen its shares plummet 90% since 2014, and shares are at their lowest in 5 years. This is coming from the fact that the message investors seem to have gotten this week during E3 is that people buy fewer games, and it's about extending the tail on games and leveraging games as a service. Essentially, what this entire article is saying is that they were less focus on new games as much as going, hey, here's I like to use Rainbow Six Siege as an example for this. Here is this game. We want you to play this game month after month after month after month rather than playing the sequel to it or another game that we make. We want you to subscribe to the game rather than buy the game. And what that means is rather than buying 20 games a year, you'll buy 10 games a year and play those games for longer. And E3 definitely seemed to be focusing on the games as a service thing. And as such, get any
half the games that were shown this year are games that you're going to play forever.
Yeah.
Like games that have a huge time investment. Not necessarily games that have the longest story in the world, but games that you can keep coming back to. There's more stuff to do. There's more stuff to unlock. There's more add-on content. There's new DLC. There's just,
There's
like you
the
said,
season pass that's not a season pass, like what Star Wars Battlefront 2 was doing, where they're like, hey, we're going to be releasing content for this for a long time, and we're going to build in microtransactions. Look at what Blizzard has done with, I mean, World of Warcraft aside, we're not talking MMOs here, but look at what Overwatch does with their new seasons and special events, and hey, get back and play this game, and look what Heroes of the Storm does in that retrospect.
Those damn microtransactions are popping up again.
Fucking everywhere. And more games are starting to cash in on that. And as such, not only are these brick-and-mortar stores getting squeezed because everything's going digital, but people are buying less. So much so it's affecting the stocks pretty hard. Like I said earlier, Game Digital, their shares have plummeted 90% over 3 years. For GameStop, they've recently closed at $20.59, which is the lowest they've been at since August of 2012. Brick and mortar stores are done. They're being squeezed in every possible direction. Nobody likes them.
Which is why if you go into a GameStop nowadays, they have some games and a whole bunch of kitschy bullshit. Yeah.
They're being hammered on the digital front because more people are buying digital every year than before. They're being hammered on the publisher front because the publishers have a highly vested interest in getting rid of these guys so they can start fighting between each other for setting the price of games. They're getting hammered by Amazon, who is just like, fuck, we'll sell a game at a loss because you'll buy a game and you'll also buy like a book and a CD and a couch while you're on our site.
It's true.
They are getting squeezed in every direction. They are going to go the way that Hollywood Video did, that Circuit City did, that any other retail store that isn't fucking called Walmart or Target did. And
take that, Kmart.
The future. And that sucks, because GameStop gets a lot of shit. I have a special place in my heart for GameStop. Admittedly, I worked at them for a couple years, but I've always enjoyed my local GameStops for the most part. But I never go in them.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time.
I don't have any reason to.
I used to go to those all the time. Like I lived in a game shop when I was in high school. That's what I did. Not now. I don't want to go in there.
You lived in a game crazy.
I said shop, not stop.
Oh, fair enough.
It counts. Could have been an EB.
But yeah, it's going to be one of those things that we look back 10 years and get that nostalgia feel to it. Like, have you ever seen a video store lately?
Last time I saw a Blockbuster was 3 years ago.
There was a Blockbuster near where I live up until about 2 years ago.
Just holding on for dear life.
And
independently owned. Those are the only ones that survived in small towns.
That they were open, I walked into it and I went, man, so much of my childhood revolved around visiting these stores.
Yep.
It's a weekend. You go, you rent 3 things because they had a maximum of 3 rentals at the Hollywood Video. You'll play or watch them throughout the weekend, and then you'll drop them back off. And that's just gone. And
then you desperately hope that when you re-rent the game the week after, you somehow get the saved copy and that no one else has played it so that you can continue your save.
Oh, yeah, back in, like, the old cartridge days? Hell yeah.
Yep. Like, desperately hoping, like, wait, has anyone else rented this? Did anyone save over file 3?
That was the problem. Everyone thought they were being clever by going to file 3.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go 2.
No, I would just make all 3 the same save.
You know, I actually never thought about that. I never thought about that. But yeah, it's an end of an era. It needs to happen, unfortunately. We advance technologically, and as such, the old has to go out to make way for the new, and this is that. If you want to know what your game store is now, Steam. Origin. Yeah, Uplay. Those are your brick and mortar stores now. They're not physical copies, but if you still want a physical copy, you got Amazon. You got Walmart. You got Best Buy. Best Buy is trying to get into this now. But yeah. It is what it is. Anyways, let's talk about some good news. And I don't count the closing of GameStop as good news, despite the fact that a lot of you might.
All right.
Remember a couple weeks ago, David, how Square and IO Interactive parted ways.
Yeah, dude, that was a bummer. I remember those dudes that made that sweet Hitman game that nobody played because they released it episodically. And even though that's not the worst idea in the world, no one actually wants episodic games.
They're also known as making one of the greatest Xbox, PlayStation 2 era games, Freedom Fighters. And I will fucking pay absurd amounts of money to get another Freedom Fighters.
It's just not going to happen.
I know.
But I appreciate your commitment.
Anyways, I was of the opinion that IO Interactive was fucked. That they were going to close down, that they were done, and they were just going to fade off into that good night. Well, turns out, not only did they live, but they somehow still fucking own the Hitman franchise.
What?
This is from IO Interactive website itself, the blog post heading The Future of IOI. IOI is now officially an independent studio. We have successfully concluded our negotiations with Square Enix and have agreed to a management buyout. Crucially, we will keep all the rights to the Hitman IP.
They live.
Yes, I am so happy because this is such a talented studio.
A major company has parted ways with a smaller company and didn't shunt it into oblivion and sell off its properties. This is actually a huge deal because that doesn't fucking happen.
Hardly ever. Not only that, but they have the Hitman IP still.
Yeah.
That's more shocking to me, is that Square Enix didn't buy that IP when they I guess partnered up with IO Interactive. I thought they bought them, but I don't know the exact details, unfortunately. So
all that means is that Hitman may not be dead.
Hey, what this means? Freedom Fighters 2 just got a little bit more real.
God damn it. Hey, they might just release another Hitman game, and they might not make it episodic, and maybe it's as good as the last one was.
Square Enix
or
had
better.
Absurd targets for the IDOS games. Like, just absurd sales numbers that everyone looked at and went, there's no way you're going to hit that.
What are you thinking?
This is one of the reasons why I think Deus Ex is dead as a franchise. This is one of the reasons why I'm really scared about the still rumored Shadow of the Tomb Raider game, which I think at this point we all know actually exists. But we'll see how that shakes out. Congratulations, IO Interactive. You have your freedom currently. I hope you don't fuck it up. Next topic, David.
Keep fighting for your freedom.
Next topic. So...
oh, man. Now we're going to get all bummer again. Because we're going to talk about a thing that we've been talking about for, I think, over a year now.
I want to say this kicked off in October of last year.
But we heard rumblings way before then.
Yeah. I'm not positive when it actually started, but we are referring to the SAG-AFTRA strike. What this is essentially the current voice actor strike going on against a lot of the bigger publishers around there. And a couple stories happened over last week that, unfortunately, confirm what both you and I have been saying. These are going to come via New Normative and Twinfinite. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first one right here from New Normative. The price of life is strange before the storm. Devs crossing the SAG-AFTRA picket line. Fans aren't happy, and that might be a good thing. This article goes on, essentially, to sum up, the actor, Ashley Birch, won't be reprising her role as Chloe Price in Life is Strange Before the Storm. She later took to Twitter to explain that this was due to the SAG-AFTRA strike. It has been going on since October of 2016, so it did start in October. Though the younger Chloe will instead be voiced by Rihanna DeVries. So they went with a non-union voice actor.
Yep, and it's crazy because how much this actor actually loves the character. Like, she kind of really stepped into the character's head and just, like, loved playing that role. So it's a weird moment someone who's on strike is actually hugely bummed that they just can't take
in
the
fact,
role.
she has a writing credit on the game still.
Yeah.
Ashley Birch does.
They're actually still consulting her, the team that's working on Before the Storm, on what Chloe should say. So she's still getting writing credits because they'll take drafts for her character's narration and say, "Hey, does this feel right?" And she'll make edits. Right. She just doesn't get to speak them.
The second story I want to bring up, and this one's via Twinfinite here. Capcom's Resident Evil 2 remake will replace Claire Redfield's original voice actress. Alison Court will not be reprising her original role as the voice of Claire Redfield in the Resident Evil 2 remake. The voice actress who portrayed the character 6 times recently uploaded a video explaining the reason why she didn't get a part. From her side of the story, it seems like there was some sort of rushed decision to take her out of production. Strangely enough, she was initially offered the point to voice and even motion capture Claire Redfield. Back then, her agent was emailed by 2 different companies who expressed their interest to have Court reprise her role. However, Court stated that the company turned her down and later chose to go non-union with the voice performances. SAG-AFTRA later said, hey, you guys need to be aware of the dangers of going non-union because you could lose all kinds of talented actors later because we won't agree to work with you. But
unfortunately for the actors, these companies don't need to worry.
And that's
they don't need to worry. It's not going to bug them. They don't care who voices the characters. They don't care as long as someone does it. And there's a lot of people that are willing to do it.
Do believe
and they're actually
the problem performance matters.
The problem is the longer this goes on without any kind of resolution, the worse it will get for them. Because as more and more companies start using non-unionized voice actors in their games and realizing that they can pay cheap talent pennies on the dollar for what they're paying the AAA voice actors, the unions will dissolve because they just won't get work, period.
Yeah, not only that, but you're going to start seeing a lot of voice actors, I think, are going to start scapping. They're going to start breaking that picket line around. Because if you're Troy Baker, if you're Nolan North, or Aaron Fitzgerald, or any of the Jennifer Hale, if you're any of the high prominent voice actors or actresses, you're fucking set. All right? You're getting offered roles hand over fist. It's the smaller caliber guys. The guys who don't necessarily get all these big roles.
People who played a character for a few years.
Yeah, they're going to start getting hungry because going on strike don't pay the bills. Additionally, these companies who are like Capcom and Square Enix with Life is Strange, they clearly do not care. And I personally think that, hey, I don't agree with strikes as normal rule. I don't agree with unions as normal rule. But fucking in this case, you guys got a point. And I'd love to see you get paid a little bit more for what's going on, or at least get some residuals. But at the end of the day, the gamer don't. So, once again, I think both you and I wish them luck, but this is playing out exactly as we called it when it first happened. That they're just going on strike.
Anyway, speaking of things that one of us called, let's move on from that because we will probably come back to that, I'm sure.
You know what? We're short on time, so let's skip that story, and we'll touch on it once something actually comes from it. I'll just mention it real quick. Vivendi is targeting to buy Ubisoft by the end of the year. This is one of those things that I did predict, but I predicted it on the back of the Ubisoft press conference dropping Ubisoft's stock so hard that Vivendi can kind of sweep it in. It seems
instead
like the press conference was actually
opposite happened.
Yeah. So if we find out more about Vivendi buying Ubisoft before the end of the year, we'll definitely revisit this topic. But we are running short on time, so let's just cut that for right now. Let's go ahead.
We'll jump into the out of the blue fucking article that came from VentureBeat. The most ridiculous shit ever.
What is it, David?
I'll go. So the Atari CEO, Atari, those guys that have rebranded like 6 times, that almost went under, and then somehow managed to stay alive because of Fred Chesney's. He told GamesBeat in an exclusive interview that his game company is working on a new game console. Yes, Atari is making a game console. The newer company might be cashing in on the popularity of retro games, like the Nintendo NES Classic Edition. Last week, they began teasing a new product called the Atari Box. Jenny declined to describe a lot of details about the console, but he did say it's based on PC technology. He said they're still working on the design and will reveal it at a later date. So the fun thing here is that we don't actually know anything about the console, and the internet is going fucking crazy with predictions, which gets us to the fun part.
This is going to be one of two things, right? It's either going to be a NES Classic for Atari games, which is fucking horrible because Atari games actually sucked. There's no nostalgia.
Well, they're not going to hold up as well. That's the problem.
Not at all. And there's no nostalgia.
There's 8 million. Well, here's the thing. The reason why this won't work as well is because there's already 8 million Atari boxes out. Go to any fucking store and you can find the Retro Game Con 3000 that plays all the Atari games anyway, because half of that shit doesn't have licensing anymore.
Well, not only that, but you also have just modern day collections like Intellivision Lives and shit.
Yeah.
with like Pitfall and the Activision classics. There's
Which
no
is
real
so
demand for any of those games.
Which
So
means they could go a different way.
what is that way?
They can try and go with, I think, your prediction of building a game console that's running on like an Android style thing, like the Amazon Fire Stick or an Ouya or a fucking PlayStation TV box, something like that, that's going to control more than one thing. But those are more casual games. I like going with the insanely risky, stupid, horrible, worst decision of all time plan that could be Atari throwing their hat into the ring with the major heavy hitters that have way the fuck more money than them and trying to throw down with Microsoft and Sony, which would be the funniest and worst decision in the history of companies.
There's no way that's happening. Atari doesn't have the fucking liquid capital to design and release a console on the level of a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. There's no way in hell that happened. It'll either be a NES Classic style console of retro games, or like you touched on, the Amazon Stick, Ouya, this plays Android games console. Either way, both of those are fucking stupid, because if it's a NES Classic style, there's no demand for retro Atari games. They sucked. I'm sorry, guys. You fucking crashed the video game market because Atari games suck so hard. Or if it goes the other route with the Fire Stick, Ouya, Android console, well, I fucking have something in my pocket that plays all that shit anyways.
Yeah, but does it plug it in your TV?
There's
does it run it in
nothing
4K?
good here that can come from this. However, I will say the most baffling comment in this entire thing is Fred Chesney saying it's going to run on PC technology.
What does that even mean?
Does every fucking console not run on PC technology?
Wait, remember that time we were talking about the console war and how this console war was actually secretly won by someone who didn't actually make a console at all, and that's AMD, because they have all the fucking chipsets for each of the major console releases.
All of your consoles are fucking PCs already, just with a limited in scope OS running it. The fuck do you mean PC technology?
What does that mean? We've developed a system that allows us to incorporate a heatsink into our game console. We think this could be the future. I think they accidentally read a press release from like 1994.
They did release this trailer real quick that kind of shows what could be this console, complete with wood paneling from the 70s on it. But we'll find out if anything comes from this over the next couple weeks. If they're showing a teaser for it, you have to imagine an announcement soon.
Maybe it's a clock radio that plays games.
Oh, God, I can only hope.
And with that ridiculous shenanigans-filled story, let's stop talking about things in the future and start talking about things that are happening now, like games that are releasing that you can play.
David,
probably today,
what can I play
maybe tomorrow.
This week?
Well, the first thing that you can play right this second, right now, you could be ignoring us this whole time and go play the new expansion.
I assure you they have been.
Because that shit came out today. The Crimson Court. The first expansion to Darkest Dungeon, which is the grim and gothic RPG by Red Hook Studios, is actually a parallel campaign that you play alongside the main campaign that gives you a whole bunch of fun new stuff. There's a new hero class, there's a new dungeon, full faction of new foes, 5 new bosses, a new wandering boss, 10 new buildings for your districts to upgrade your hamlet, tons of new maps with locked doors, prisoner rooms, progress saves, lore-driven trinket sets, all kinds of shit.
Super excited for this. This is going to be out on PC today and PlayStation 4/Vita eventually when it comes out.
Get your Darkest Dungeon on. That's a thing that's happening. If you don't feel like dungeoning in spooky places, you can instead play Dead Rising 4, Super Ultra Dead Rising 4 Mini Golf, hitting PC and Xbox One. This is actually one of 2 DLCs that they're coming out with for this game. The other one's like Frank's Rising or some shit. But that's not out yet. This is completely absurd. It's actually a mini golf game set in the Dead Rising universe. Courses are set in the Willamette Mall and the town. Frank gives you play-by-play as you progress. There's clubs, costumes, balls to unlock, power-ups. Because you're playing mini golf, but there's still zombies. So you're trying to kill zombies with the ball while also getting the ball in the hole. I don't know how that's going to work, but I do know there's 4-player online multiplayer and local turn-based co-op.
All right.
I don't know what to do with that. It's ridiculous.
I want to like Dead Rising.
Yeah, I want to be into it. I just don't know how to feel about it.
What
Something
else
else that everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people I am aware of have been excited for the fact that Final Fantasy XIV has a new expansion called Stormblood. It's got new adventures. There's 2 new jobs, Red Mage and Samurai. You can swim. You can dive. The level cap is 10 levels higher. You can go to a city called Kugane. There's dungeons. There's a new raid. There's new Forbidden Lands and gear. And it's an MMO expansion. If you're into it, you're into it. If you're not, it ain't getting you into it.
Final Fantasy XIV, one of the greatest comeback stories of all time, by the way.
It's true. That game was shit, and they're like, hey, we're just going to reborn this realm and make this fucking game again.
Reborn this realm.
Yeah, that's clever, right? Now let's talk about something that we first saw at PSX last year that I am so hyped for, actually. Next Machina Death Machine.
Dumb name, but fucking A, this looks amazing.
Let's talk about the fact that this is a collaboration between House Marquee, the guys that made Resogun, Alienation, Matterfall, Dead Nation?
Yeah, Dead Nation.
And Eugene Jarvis, the legendary creator of Smash TV and Robotron. Yes, showing up to make the 80s-fueled, just top-down bullet hell shooter of your dreams.
It looks amazing.
Mechanical onslaught of evil robots powered by some sweet-ass beats and top-down shooting action. I'm probably going to be playing this by the time we're done talking. Also a game that's been out 8 million years, a game that was first released for iOS in November of 2013, is coming to the Switch, and that's Oceanhorn, Monster of Uncharted Seas.
This is like the most Zelda knockoff I've ever, like the biggest Zelda knockoff I've ever seen. Specifically Wind Waker.
No, yeah, it is Wind Waker in a new skin called Oceanhorn. Wait, Oceanhorn, the boat is identical. Let's talk about it. It's an action-adventure video game developed by Corn Fox and Brothers. It's on every fucking thing besides the Switch. Now it's on Switch as well. Now, the funny thing is, well, everyone says it's like a huge, blatant ripoff of Zelda. Apparently, it's a really fucking good, blatant ripoff of Zelda.
Yeah, so, that's what I was going to get. Apparently, there's a lot of positive buzz for this game.
Yep. And finally, if you are a Switch owner, you are aware of the fact that your console has a game releasing this week already, I'm assuming, and that's Splatoon 2. Which is the continuation of the third-person shooter franchise that Splatoon started for Nintendo. It's a team-based third-person shooter where you shoot good at each other. You're an Inkling, and you turn into ink, and then you turn into less.
Surprise hit from Nintendo was Splatoon, so it only makes sense to make a second one.
There's new weapons. You can dual-wield. You can roll and dodge and jetpack.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
The big thing is that Splatoon 2 is actually going to give us a better idea how good Nintendo is at online play. Because guess what you're going to do here?
Play online eventually. I don't believe it, but we'll see.
Eventually.
Anyways, I think that wraps things up for new releases, David. Thank you, as always, for gathering that information. And thank you for watching us. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up right now. This has been GamePoints episode 93. We do stream every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at TwitchTV/GamePoints. If you happen to be watching us live, please feel free to follow and all that good stuff down below. Or if you can't catch us live, you can always join us over at YouTube. Just type in GamePoints, one word. We should pop right up there to catch all of our older shows and anything that we put up that didn't have audio problems, as I tend to have in most of our shows, because I'm a goddamn moron when it comes to that stuff.
There's only like 2/3 of the show that actually exists because of certain hosts' inability to keep the files intact.
Yeah. Anyways, regardless of where you happen to watch us at, please like, follow, dislike, subscribe, comment, do whatever you guys like to do. If you want to follow us individually, you can follow me on Twitter at CapitalistPig21 or David over there at PalShife_Satori. Once again, this has been GamePoints episode 93. We will see you next Monday, but until then, we're out of here.
Don't pre-order.